Hey yo, Ben, what's up, my man? Glad to see you popping around here. Appreciate it, man. Trying to be as sexy as you, always. Hey, man, you been too busy? Yo, I love fried chicken, man. So now I gotta add to my list. Like, I gotta have the jerky and also the fried chicken, right? I need to have both from Bangkok. Yo, that looks so good, man. Looks crispy as shit, bro. Yo, Fight Talk MMA. Glad to have you over here. And yeah, fried chicken always sounds amazing. I don't think there has been a point in my life where I said like, "Oh no, I don't want fried chicken," right? Evan Lee, thank you to pop you, even if you just for support and you can listen. I still appreciate it. Don't know if you're listening to this, but still appreciate it, man. Where do I have my headphones, bro? Please, 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 please. Okay, let me get my. Hard disk. Okay. I'll wait for like another 5 minutes or something, and we'll do the intro and shit. Ghost, always appreciated when you show up. Hope we can talk shit on some bad fights, right? Yeah, Ben is the man. He's doing fried chicken, which is like more interesting than my podcast, to be honest. So, here we have the Rockstar going on today. You know, I need my energy my energy drink for good luck. Okay, we're running a bit late, so I'll do the intro, and we'll get to talk some fights. And if you guys have any question, want to interact, you can always do so. So the way this works is that I read a fight. I have my script with the description of both fighters and that kind of stuff, and and after that, I interact with you guys before moving on to the next one. So I'll get into my stuff right now. Let me check if I have the right the right microphone connected, and we're going to begin. Let me get some. Okay. I'll try to remember, man. Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Feño from the Fight Site, and this is the full preview. We're previewing UFC 305, coming right at you from Australia, the land down under. So we have a pretty interesting main event, even if some people are calling it undeserved. We have middleweight champion of the world somehow, Dricus du Plessis. He's defending the title against former champion Israel Adesanya. So there's a lot of bad blood going on into this one. The division has seen better days, so we'll see if Adesanya shows up in good form to give us a good fight, right? But yeah, this event is pretty good. I feel like the matchmaking is very solid here, and on the main card, kind of stacked, especially for the Australian public. They're giving them like they're good fighters. They are all like present here, and we have some Kiwi representation too. But we'll get into that. We have 12 fights here, and why don't we get into the first one? The first fight of the night is a flyweight bout between Stuart Nicoll and Jesus Aguilar. Let's begin with the newcomer Stuart Nicoll. The Australian is an undefeated transition-based ground and pound specialist. On the feet, he likes to keep exchanges short, moving his head off center line with his punches to catch fear-liar counters with both hands, and can also throw hard kicks. He's at his best moving forwards, as his takedown threat and good understanding of rhythm and timing allow him to pick his shots, but he has some countering ability, defaulting mostly to his check hook. Despite serviceable striking, this mainly serves as a mean to get his wrestling and grappling going. The owner of a quick level change, Nicoll likes to shoot under right hands as a counter to kicks, and he likes to drive people to the fence where he's both grindy and flowy. He pushes a relentless pace, attacking body locks, trips, and dropping to the legs, and he's quick to attack with short strikes during get-ups. He has a preference for lacing the legs and getting to the back, where he can attack with punches and mad returns until he's fully able to take the back to finish the fight with ground and pound or the rear naked choke. So far, he has been a solid defensive wrestler and a very agile and urgent scrambler when he has found himself on bottom position. The apparent lack of depth to his striking is his most clear flaw so far, untested against high-level opposition. And against him we have Jesus Aguilar, an athletic and stocky wrestler boxer. Aguilar is wild and can lack nuance, as he is mostly big action fighter based both on the striking and the wrestling. At range, he attacks with big leg kicks and wide hooks, looking to crash distance, changing levels for the double leg or driving opponents to the fence. His defense revolves around his wrestling and managing distance with his bouncy in and out movement. He has good timing for counters inside the pocket, but he doesn't move his head much at all. His double leg is his best takedown. If he manages to lock his hands, his opponents are probably going for a ride, but he can have trouble rushing the finish to his single legs and can get outmaneuvered inside the clinch. From top position, he has good posture and can attack with heavy aggressive ground and pound, but has been reversed, getting too eager attacking with strikes. From bottom, he has good timing but relies on big movements, using small openings to use his small frame, strength, and athleticism to get out of sketchy positions, and his ability to do so can diminish as the fight goes on, despite his good cardio. The guillotine is his go-to submission, and he can look for it from a variety of positions. Lack of nuances and depth to his skill set are his biggest issues. In a fight between transition-based fighters, we have the athleticism and experience of Aguilar against the methodical grappling and pace of Nicoll. On the feet, Aguilar probably has a speed and power edge, while Nicoll is more balanced and has better shot selection. These fighters are going to eventually grapple, as I don't expect an anti-grappling gameplay from Aguilar, and even if he did, Nicoll will clearly look to impose his game there. Aguilar has some interesting tools, especially his strength and scrambling ability, plus his power at range, but his style of scrambling, I feel, will eventually lead to his downfall, as his explosive movements aren't sustainable over 3 rounds, especially against the grindy mat return-oriented game of the Australian. The locals open the night with a win as Nicoll earns a decision. Okay, let's check the chat. I see some movement here. We have Rio Sosen present here. Glad to have you here, man. James Kendrick, hello, my man. You mentioned Nicoll's pressure to wrestle. In your opinion, is it hard to take someone down who is moving forward with false entries and double jabs, unlike Nicoll? I mean, it depends. I feel like it depends on the style of takedowns. I feel like something like, for example, a blast double is easier to get out on the open when you get your opponent to open up. And also, like, the fence can be a trouble in those kind of situations. On the other hand, I feel like single legs and trips, those work better when you are pressuring, because you can get people against the fence and just start making them balance, like DC always talks about, like just making them move with the single leg. Hey Fenner, it's Matt Yoya. We have the goat, the goat plata over here. Thank you for being here, man. A Ghost, do you consider Aguilar a good transitional fighter on the ground, or he's just too aggressive when he gets a position? I feel like Aguilar has some good instincts when it comes to transition fighting, but I feel like he's too, like, anxious. He's like too big movements. I feel like he should like dial it back a little bit. I know he doesn't have a lot of nuance to his game, but I feel like he's a good athlete. He could maybe like put better shot selection out there and focus a little more in controlling positions, because he's a good wrestler, right? We have Dan Tom the GOAT. Finish the man, hit the like button. Yeah, please, people, hit that like button. It helps a lot. Oh, my former co-host Dan Albert is here as well. Because he's working and cooking, so he'll be in and out. But I really appreciate it to have you guys over here. Don't worry, guys. If Fenrir misses any hog or race analysis, I'll be sure to praise him. Yeah, I mean, we'll keep the more racy stuff for the post fight show, man. So. And because this is Adesanya versus Plessis, this post-fight show that me and Dan Tom are going to have, it's going to be crazy, dude. So make sure to not miss that one. You can check that out on the Protect Your Neck Substack. Make sure to check that out. Third Ricos Duplessis. The Emerald. Ricos Duplessis. Okay, guys. We'll get into the second fight right now. Let me... After that, we have a welterweight bout that pits Kenan against Ricky Glenn. Let's begin with Kenan. a meat and potatoes kickboxer. Kenan can jab decently well from distance, but he's mostly about the 3-2-2-3 changeup. He has big power in his punches and is a solid combination puncher when he finds the mark. His timing and distance management are good as he can find his target moving forwards or countering, but his lack of head movement make prolonged exchanges a gamble, even though he's decent at blocking and hiding behind his lead shoulder and a high elbow. A dexterous kicker who favors chambering, there's not a lot of depth to his kicking game, but he can punctuate combinations from both sides and he complements his range striking and variety with his lower limbs, being tricky with his lead leg, being able to kick high with little windup and telegraph. A solid athlete, Son Kenan seems foot slow, mostly because of his rude stance, but he's a decently agile and physically strong athlete. A serviceable wrestler, he's good at defending takedowns early, denying shots with underhooks and good balance, but can be taken down by chained attempts. His grappling is nothing to write home about. Kenan's constant, predictable rhythm and shallow defense against layered offense has been his limiting factors. On the other hand, we have Ricky Glenn, a well-rounded veteran. After UFC stints at 145 and 155, Glenn tried his luck at welterweight. A southpaw striker, Glenn works at a steady pace, and while his punching mechanics are a bit flaily, he has decent pop and cat-poo combinations together well. His left hand is a bit wild, but he positions himself well to line it up, and he has a sneaky right hook that he sneaks mid-combination and also uses to catch people exiting the pocket. Glenn also times solid knees against incoming foes and can kicks to all levels, having a decent front snap kick to the body. His defense at range can be inconsistent as he has had trouble moving his head in open space when not having the initiative. A solid clinch fighter, just like at range, Glenn maintains solid and steady volume and can fight from a variety of grips to find knees and elbows, especially when he's the one putting foes against the fence. A good wrestler and grappler overall, he has had trouble with physicality imposing wrestlers conceding takedowns, but keeping him down and getting damage going has mostly been a hard task. He can be damaging from top position as his volume stays with his ground and pound, and he's a solid scrambler who can inflict damage in transitions well and can threaten with front chokes even if it is mostly to maintain top control. His cardio has been excellent, but durability has been a concerning factor. We'll see if the move up to a new weight class is for the better in that aspect. Interestingly, both fighters have basically the same overall record, both outside and inside the UFC, are the same age and are built as the same height. So that was very surprising. That said, it's hard to not picture the career welterweight Son Kenan as the bigger man inside the cage. This is really a very good fight to measure if moving up was a good idea for Ricky. He gets to fight a big dude in the division, but one that he can somewhat match in length. Kenan is also a big puncher, so his new durability and ability to take bigger shots will be put to test as well. But also Glenn will get to experience some of the advantages of the smaller fighter. He will probably be the quicker fighter on the feet for once, and unless his body doesn't do well with the extra weight, his outstanding cardio should be even more of a weapon now. There are a lot of questions we cannot answer for sure. Strength, durability, and cardio are all hard to predict and might be the deciding factors. I do think even if Glenn shows up looking good, that taking down Son Kenan would probably be hard for him, and Son will be more powerful and impactful striker inside the pocket. For this reason, that even if Glenn shows up in good shape with his attributes in the right place, this is not a free fight, that I'm tentatively picking Son by a second round knockout. James Kendrick says, I like darting straight clip of Son that you showed on Next. That's cool, like to hide the stance change with the knee raise. Would it be better to dart with a straight to the body when he changes? Yeah, I mean, the darting strike to the body can be effective, but you gotta understand that when you're covering a big distance, strikes to the body, it's something that it's not taught enough by us nerds that love the body shots, right? Is that the body shots expose your head a lot more than it is a lot harder to hide behind your shoulders, and if you're not like changing levels like super deep, body shots can be very comfortable. So in a dart, it can work, especially if you feel like your opponent is biting on the feint, right? But I feel like it can be also be dangerous because you're closing at a long distance and you can be countered going for that. But yeah, I mean, saying that, I'm not saying that the dart is like a bad weapon to go to the body. It's just something that you might want to consider when doing that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good option, man. And and for all the guys that we see darting in MMA, we really don't see much of darting to the body. So that's a good point, man. Let me share one more time. Oh yeah, this is like burying myself right now. Um, this is like getting nothing. Oh, that's because I didn't put the link under it, right? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Let's put the link right here. I have the link. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the next one. Okay, okay, okay. What's the next one anyway? Let's see. Okay, Tom Nolan versus Alex Reyes. We move down to lightweight. We have a fight between Tom Nolan and Alex Reyes. Let's begin with Nolan. A freakishly long striker, Nolan likes to take advantage of his reach, using straight punches, roundhouses to all three levels, and punishing front snap kicks to the midsections to establish a long range, disrupt entries, and control the pace of the fight. Aggressive and creative, Nolan strings his long range tools together, looking to set up big shots, and is also competent countering foes trying to close the distance, be it with pull counters or hard intercepting knees. His tendency to extend combinations can expose his defense, as he doesn't move his head much and relies on hiding behind his lead shoulder when staying for too long inside the pocket. He's decent in the clinch and knows how to use his long frame well to find elbows and knees, and his takedown defense has seen itself aided by his height in there. His grappling has been largely untested, but has shown the ability to generate scrambles, particularly pushing off the hips with his long legs. Other than being tagged inside the pocket in his last two fights, he has been untested in a big number of ways, but his offensive potency cannot be denied. On the other hand, we have Alex Reyes, the brother of Dominic Reyes, for those of you that don't know. A lanky jack of all trades, Reyes likes to move around on the outside, putting together aggressive combinations, mixing straight shots and long uppercuts. Reyes has power and good timing off the bat, but he lacks structure to his striking game, mostly getting into exchanging, hoping to land the better shots. His defense can be inconsistent, as he has shown the ability to proactively move his head and angle out after his combos, but has been caught many times with his head right on the center line mid-exchange. A solid clinch fighter, Reyes can have trouble getting out-muscled, especially in open space, but he fight grips well and can be dangerous with knees and elbows. Not much of a technical wrestler, Reyes is not afraid to mix things up with level changes, and he can finish double legs and high crotches against the fence, but his level change isn't very quick and usually has to wear opponents out with strikes and inside the clinch to get the fight to the mat. His top game is his best attribute, being sleek and dangerous with ground and pound and submission attempts. While his top control isn't very suffocating, his back control is excellent and he can play off the arm triangle rear naked choke changeup well. Whilst historically very tough and well conditioned, his lack of activity and disjointed game haven't been doing him much favors as of late. While Nolan has been tagged on the feet and Reyes has decent pop, and the American also looks to probably have an at least decently sized advantage on the ground, it is hard to pick against Nolan here, who is the more polished and damaging striker in a fight in which really neither guy is a pocket boxer. This coupled with Reyes' lackluster wrestling makes me think the Australian gets a finish early, so my pick is Nolan via first round knockout. For Nolan, Rio Sosen says, for Nolan, what is the downside for relying on getting behind the lead shoulder? Well, the thing with getting behind the lead shoulder like Nolan does, especially because he doesn't like super tuck his chin, he just like goes like blaze his stance and hopes to catch things on the lead shoulder. And sometimes with the high elbow, that is something that quite a few fighters do in this card. We talked about Kenan doing that just a moment ago. The thing with that is that it's like very fierce layer. It's like just like putting on the high guard. So he's very open, especially because he has been caught with like the loopy strikes coming his way, especially because he's Salpa, right? So the thing is that he hides here behind the shoulder, and the big right hand comes this way. And if he was like a orthodox fighter, he could be exposed to the left hook, and the left hook has always been like the kryptonite to the shoulder rolling, right? And this is not like shoulder rolling; it's just like a covering up behind your lead shoulder. So yeah, that's the danger. You obviously like hiding behind your lead shoulder. Nothing wrong with that. It's something that every boxer needs to learn. But you gotta have something to do from there. Hopefully, you get your high guard up on the other side. You can roll under it. You can look to add pivots or stuff like that. Or if you like, you can use your lead shoulder to collapse distance and grab clinches, right? The problem with Nolan, I've seen in the last few fights, what got him hurt is that he strikes and backs up behind his lead shoulder, and he's uncovered from his. Well, in the case of him, he's uncovered from his left side, right? Making the walk. What's Bobby Feño being related to Dominic Reyes can't be good base for MMA. Yeah, man. I mean, I think Dominic Reyes was pretty good at one moment, especially when he beat John Jones. Don't come at me, but his brother is not very gifted, man. I mean, it's not that he sucks. He's like perfectly fine, like high level regional fighter. But I think in the UFC, he's a bit like out of depth. I would say Alex Reyes, and and the thing is that he doesn't have like a he Alex Reyes, the problem with Alex Reyes is that he's not like super skilled in one particular area, and I feel like when you're not a very good athlete, you need to be like a specialist. We have Shriram the goat, another goat. We have so many goats in the chat right now. High level guards are fun, Ronaldo moment. Yeah. I mean, high level guards are fun, especially because they exploit the bad combination punching in MMA. I think that's why so many TriStar fighters are like going with that. We saw like Rory McDonald back in the day. Tarek Safedin, after fighting Rory McDonald, he moved to TriStar and also was playing a lot with the high elbow. And now we have Arnold Allen going with the high elbow. James Kendricks asks, is it hard to develop a layered game in general for MMA? Like being able to build off exchanges like Max Holloway? I feel like you need a good balance between being like very well schooled and experienced to become like an actual very good layer fighter. And I think and I've talked about this, and I don't want to go like super deep because we have more fights to talk about, right? Right? But I feel like it is good for fighters to have like not super serious like amateur careers in other sports to get like experience and some kind of specialty. I've talked about this like fighters who had like amateur kickboxing careers. Those are more likely to be like layer strikers because they had they have more time to like put in practice what they're learning inside the gym. Some gyms are like good at getting like very valuable, good sparring sessions that you can learn a lot of to become a layer fighter. But I don't trust many gyms to put on like good, actual good sparring. But yeah, I mean, I feel it is. I feel like the other thing about being like a layer fighter, where be it like offense or defense, is that you need to. It's something very personal about the fighter, right? Your coaches can teach you a lot of layering offense and defense, and they can make sure that you get the right level of opposition during your fights, or your management, whatever, or yourself. But you need the peace of mind inside the cage to make the right decisions, right? Some fighters are like way too anxious to make those kind of decisions, and 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 I feel like you need like the right mindset to be like that level of fighter, to be that comfortable inside the cage, like Max Holloway is. And other fighters who are like very anxious apparently inside the cage, like Jose Aldo, still like are very good at like having like a very cool head and making the right decisions inside the cage, right? A lot of people talk about like inside the cage you don't think, you just flow. But if you go at the like the very high level fighters, like those two examples, like Max Holloway and Jose Aldo, there comes a moment where you have to make decisions. You cannot let everything flow, right? You're trying to minimize the amount of thinking inside the cage, because overthinking is obviously a very bad thing in a fight. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a myth. Fighters are thinking inside the cage, and the ones that have like a cool head and can make like the split second decisions, those are the ones that are more likely to have like a layered game that it's very effective against a variety of opponents. Straight up says that's a good point. Someone like Edwards has the tools to blend offense and defense, even in pocket exchange at times, but it's too much of a head hit. Yeah, I think Leon Edwards, obviously, if you go like only by skills, one this is kind of controversial, but I feel like one of the best that we ever seen in MMA. But he, and I hate to use this phrase, but he's someone that not that is for Leon Edwards. It's very hard to get into like a flow state, right? So you can tell that Leon Edwards is like thinking a lot in his fights, and he's like the opposite of what I just said. Is a fighter that I feel like would be benefited a lot from flowing more and thinking a bit less. Like you're especially because when you have that like such an eclectic skill set, you can afford to think a lot less because you know how to do so much stuff, right? I feel like when you have a more minimal tool set, you have to think a lot more because you have to do more with less. In the case of Edwards, like he knows how to do so much stuff that he should like just do more stuff and think less, right? Yeah, that's it. Let's move to the next fight. The next one is pretty good, I think. Yeah. We move down once more. This is a featherweight bout. We have Jack Jenkins against Herbert Burns. Let's begin with the local guy, Jenkins. A leg kick oriented striker, Jenkins likes to walk his opponents down behind feints and big single shots, mostly playing the changeup of the jab and his trademark leg kicks until he gets the opponent covering up. Once there, he puts good combinations together, attacking all three levels. Particularly dangerous with the left hook to the body and punctuating combos downstairs. He can also switch the southpaw to add variety, has decent fundamentals, and quite a few tricks from there too. He's a lot better moving forwards. When put on the back foot, he can pop a decent jab to freeze opponents and is a counter threat, but tends to retreat in straight lines. While he retreats a lot, he's also good at defending shots with his high guard, mixing in parries and looking to counter. Strong in the clinch, Jenkins usually prefers collar ties. He has big body knees from there that complements his attrition game, and his footwork is solid, usually looking to regain the center of the cage when finding himself in tie-ups. His takedown defense is sturdy, aided by his stocky frame and athleticism, and this translates well in in good reacting takedowns of his own off a quick level change. Solid from top position, landing steady ground pound and good passes. Solid and maintaining mount, but can get sketchy during transitions to dominant positions. Jenkins mostly struggles when denied his kicking game, be a solid boxing volume that disrupts his setups, or when put on the back foot against the fence or with his back on the mat. Conditioning and toughness are good assets. Opposite to him, we have Herbert Burns, another brother, the brother of Gilbert Burns. Big for the weight class, the BJJ specialist fights out of a tall stance, feigning with his hands and knee raises, looking to attack from range. When he maintains range, he can put clean combos together and is pretty decent at using his feints to manipulate opponents and find openings. His knees are a great weapon, as his lanky frame allows him to find them from deceptive ranges, and he's good at timing them, be it as a counter to level changes and moving forwards or inside the clinch. His defense is pretty one note, but he does a good job of hiding behind his lead elbow and shoulder and blading his stance when moving backwards. He can tend to reach for clinches and takedowns, and while he can sometimes disguise his entries with strikes pretty well, most of the times his entries can be too announced. Inside the clinch, he's decently strong and can fight his aforementioned knees, plus elbows and some solid trips, aided by his frame and strength. On the ground, he has a very good passes and is a smothering top player. He doesn't always focus on ground and pound, but he can be dangerous posturing up using his long limbs and has decent power. Back control is his A game. He can take the back from a variety of places, including the clinch and during get-ups, and his rear naked choke is very good. From bottom, he can have trouble being too patient, setting up sub attempts or sweeps, and can be neutered against the fence. Resolve and conditioning have been major issues in his UFC run. Despite his bad streak, Burns always offered danger, in particular with his knees and his ground game, and both could show themselves against a stocky striker in Jenkins. That being said, the Australian's attrition game is probably bad news for the Brazilian, who, more than fragile, has looked shaky mentally and hasn't been able to put it together in his UFC run as of late. The leg kicks and bodywork of Jenkins drive him to a second round knockout. Let's go back to the chat. Do you think Jenkins is good at timing the low kick of the opponent's steps, or does he do better to punctuate with low kicks? I think he's pretty decent at both. He's not as good as, for example, like Chris Gutierrez, that he has basically this magic to time the steps to land like a million leg kicks for free, right? But he does a pretty good shot, especially when he pairs it up with because he mostly lands the right leg kicks, but when he mixes like the switch kicks from the left side or some switches to southpaw to attack with the left leg too, I think he can get with landing. He can get away with landing a lot of like free leg kicks. But he's also like pretty good at finishing the combinations too, right? So he's a pretty versatile leg kicker. So I think that's what allows him to be like a leg kicking guy in MMA. Ben Cohn, I support everyone who uses the elbow in their guard. Non grappling guard. Yeah. We've a lot of like high elbow guys right so far, right? We have Kenan, we have Nolan. We have Herbert Burns right now, so it's like something that it's quite in vogue right now in MMA, right? Hard to not be shaky fighting the GOAT Julio Arce. Herbert is not large, man. You went to Gilcliff? Didn't know, man. So he's not that big. I mean, he has looked pretty big inside the cage, right? But maybe looks can be deceiving. Herbert beating Langwer, an all-time meme outcome. Yeah, that's so weird, right? Because like Herbert Burns is like, if you want to pick a dude that it's going to break for sure against Nate the Train, you would say like Herbert Burns, right? And he's the guy that like just knocked him out cold on the first round when Danilla couldn't. Oh yeah, I mean catching some punches on the elbow is a lot of fun, man. I've always been more of a I like to when I do the like the when I get into orthodox and I'm like shoulder rolling, what I do is like parrying upwards with the elbow, a little bit like not kind of stalling because I like to keep like a floating hand here. And when I feel the punch coming, like you can elbow up, and sometimes you can catch them like pretty good with that too. And you can tell that it sucks, especially when you're not wearing like elbow pads. Also, you were for a GM3 BJJ class. That's probably sick, man. You need to tell me more about that another time. That sounds like a lot of fun, man. Okay, what's the next fight? Oh, making the walk. So, sorry, man. I skipped your comment. I find it hard to find positive things to say about Herbert Burns. Um, yeah, man. The UFC run for Herbert Burns has been rough. Uh, I feel like he's a lot better than he has shown. Especially he's a better striker than people give him credit for. And on the ground, he's pretty solid, but yeah, he has not looked up to par in the UFC, man. And I feel like he's going to lose this one, and he's going to get caught. I feel like him being like Gilbert's brother was like doing a lot of the carrying after like very bad performances, especially because the UFC like hates people that quits during fights. But I feel like they gave him like this very hard fight for his last fight of his contract, I'm guessing, to get rid of him. So it sucks, man. Like I feel like Herbert seems like a nice guy, just like Gilbert. So it's kind of sad that he couldn't like put it together in the UFC. At least put on better fights. I'm not saying that he should have won every fight, right? In fact, I feel like it's very funny that he beat like Nate Landwehr, as we said, and Evan Dunham on his retirement fight. We have Aleshui. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. First time catching one of these live. Always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much, guy. Hope you have fun. And yeah, we have Ben Con, we have Ghost in here, we have Sriram, we have a stack house for this full preview, and I'm so thankful for all of you. Ronan, another goat, the goat of goats. We have Ronan Curtis on the house. Thank you so much for being here. It's not the same when you're not here. We'll get into the next fight. Let me get my notes. Okay. After that, we have a flyweight bout. We have Casey O'Neill against Luana Santos. Let's begin with Casey O'Neill. A physical and tough all-rounder, O'Neill likes to walk her opponents down behind a stiff jab, looking to either put the straight right behind it or to draw a counter to pull and then get back with her right hand. Her head can be a bit stationary, but she has good timing and throws back in the pocket. She also throws the overhand, especially to transition to clinches or shoot takedowns, both of which she will also look for defensively and offer her a safety net to her striking game, aided by her pressure as well. A solid grappler and clinch fighter, O'Neill mostly shines during transitions where her well-roundedness really becomes a strength, and from top position where she has tremendous control, flowing with her opponents until she gets to the back or the mount. Huge ground and pound and good submissions make her very dangerous if she establishes dominance in the ground. The biggest problem for O'Neill is the lack of depth to both her striking and wrestling, as she is very good in transitions, but her limitations can show when stuck in one area. Cardio and toughness are some of his best qualities. Opposite to her, we have Luana Santos, a former judoka. Santos is an athletic and well-rounded fighter. Santos is the owner of a stiff jab that she likes to use to intercept entries, baiting opponents with her bouncy footwork, moving around on the outside, or walking people down. Her right hand is kinda wonky as she tends to push it, but she still manages to put decent power on it, and has good timing with it. She doesn't move her head much, but she remains aware during exchanges and moves in and out, countering missed shots well with her own. A former judoka, the clinch is a strong suit. She's aggressive with strike while she positions her feet and adjusts her grips to set up her throws, be it from over-under hooks or the headlock. She's a fan of the scarf hold position of the head and arm throw. She has looked like a strong defensive wrestler so far from open space, and the time she has been reversed on the ground, she has shown good scrambling abilities. From top position, she has solid base and good passes, and showed the ability to work the arm triangle rear naked choke changeup in her last fight. Cardio looks sketchy the one time she went to the scorecards in the UFC, but that was up a division and on very short notice. A lot of aspects of her game remain untested at a high level. Both girls have similar attributes and operate in similar spaces, being decent open space boxers who like to attack during transitions and shine from top position. O'Neal might be the better put together transitional fighter, but Luana presents a challenge for her as the quicker fighter and stronger inside the clinch, which means O'Neal will probably need to figure her out and wear her out as the fight goes on. The problem is that O'Neal has historically needed the ability to transition from one phase to another to get going, and I feel like she will lose the fight in a few key places, so I'm picking Luana Santos to win a close decision. I had to tune in to hear about the analysis for this Jair Senior card. Yeah, this is the Biggie Boy card. Uh, um, I have on good authority that Australia is actually turning into wait excuse me here. Yeah. Um yeah, I feel like Australia is going to turn into Suriname after they are blessed with the Jair Senior, right? Uh Jair Senior is the GOAT, and Australians will have to admit that they belong to Suriname right now. That's what's going to happen. Um, Ben Con says interesting pick with Santos. Yeah, I feel like O'Neal is very good, despite the losing streak. I feel like Santos is like a tough matchup, right? Um, because of what I said, like she will be able to compete in the striking, and I feel like O'Neal really likes to get those clinches going and that stuff, and I feel like that's going to be tough against Santos. I feel like if Santos tires, O'Neal is very capable of taking over. So that's what I'm picking, like a very close decision that maybe is like Luana Santos winning the early part of the fight, and then Casey O'Neal gets going, and we have a close one. We'll have to learn Australians. Will have to learn Dutch, the worst language. Oh man, Dutch is rough. The fact that Germans they do not speak Dutch, right? That's so weird. Suriname, really, Darren. Next fight should be very good. So let's get into that one. We go back to featherweight for the next one. We have a bout between Josh Culibao and Ricardo Ramos. Culibao, an awkward and long striker, Culibao is a lot craftier than you would think at first glance. A switch stance hitter, he is constantly feigning an open space, looking to gather reactions and make reads. Culibao's mechanics are a bit wonky, and part of that is attributed to him being very loose and relaxed inside the cage, which allows him to throw a lot of volume without tiring, and to have a good amount of effortless pop to his strikes. Culibao is an active kicker and attacks all three levels. His defense isn't exactly textbook either, but he moves his head and his feet during and after exchanges and adapts as the fight goes on. His game nature also applies in the clinch, where he's stronger than you might expect and aggressive with knees, elbows, solid footwork, and an eye for strikes during breaks. Takedown defense has been sketchy, but he's good and tireless scrambler, and he's also an opportunistic grappler who will reverse position if allowed or attack with little shots in every standing position. Culibao's cardio and adaptability are his strongest qualities. He has been hurtable, especially when caught out of position when moving his head, but his recovery has been excellent, and he has been never finished at 145. Ramos, a dynamic and well-rounded fighter. At range, Ramos is at his best pressuring, using good footwork to get people against the cage, where he can attack with short combinations, favoring immediate setups for one big strike. At neutral space, he's less effective, but not out of sorts, being able to pick his shots well and move his head to keep himself safe. And he's always dangerous with his jumping and spinning attacks. His head movement can be exploited by straight shots, but he does a good job of using his high guard after slipping the initial shot, and he's good at catching kicks as well. Changing levels also keeps him safe from strikes and allows him to go into the clinch, where he's a deceptively strong wrestler with a solid inside trip from over-unders and a variety of bodylock attacks. As a grappler, he mostly favors taking the back or threatening with his front headlock series, and he's a good finisher of chokes. Ramos' lack of nuance has costed him, and also the drop of his volume after the round 1. That said, he's a good athlete who can compete and finish the fight anywhere. Ramos is probably going to employ a wrestle-heavy attack on this one, despite his last 2 losses coming via guillotine off the level change. And I'm not sure that's the right idea. Culibao can be taken down, but he's a solid grappler and can usually scramble his way back to his feet. On the feet, Ramos is a bit tighter mechanically, and he has power to exploit some of Culibao's worst habits, but the Australian is the more fluid striker who operates at a higher pace. Culibao might have a rough first round, but his pace, especially considering how much he goes to the body, will probably mean trouble for the Brazilian. I'm picking Culibao by decision. Let's go back to the shot. Is Culibao lower pace Josh Ban? I think he's like similarly paced. The thing with Culibao is that he doesn't hit as hard as Josh Ban, but that's a good. They're kind of similar. Like I feel like Culibao is like more relaxed. I feel like Joshua Ban is like very tight, not in a bad sense. He's like tight in the like Jose Aldo way, right? Like he's coiled, like ready to explode. While Culibao is a lot more like loose, relaxed, and that allows him to be like very sneaky, right? Culibao is like, and Culibao also like explodes and throws hard, but he has like this very relaxed quality to his strikes. Which can be bad and good, right? Because he, as I mentioned, his mechanics are not as tight, but he has a lot of power. He has a very good eye for openings, and he doesn't get tired because he's so relaxed the whole time, right? At first, I used to hate Culibao. I thought like he fought like super ugly, and he has improved a lot in his UFC run, right? But because when he beat Shar Jordan, I didn't like him a lot. I thought he fought very ugly. But now he has become like a better boxer, and he's setting a lot of body shots up and kicking during breaks. He does a lot of cool stuff, man. But looking back, he's like maybe cooler than Shar Jordan. Man, I'm running out of Rockstar already, man. We're running out of Rockstar. Let me check a few things. We have some crazy du Plessis gifts order. Yeah, man, we need to have like I need like those huge gallons of milk that you guys Americans have. I need that but of Rockstar for the previews, right? Okay, what's the next fight? Where do even I have my tabs? I have a mess right here. Hopefully I have like 2 screens. Okay, we have heavyweights. Let's go. We have such a good fight. I'll try to be respectful in this preview. And then you guys make sure to talk shit right now. So when I'm done with the recorded part, we can trash these guys, right? We move all the way up to heavyweight. We have Junior Tafa against Walter Walker. Let's begin with Junior Tafa. Unlike his brother Justin, We have a lot of brothers in this card, right? But yeah, Junior Tafa, like his brother Justin Jr., is taller and fights out of an orthodox stance. He likes to measure his opponent behind a snappy jab, looking to set up his sharp and dangerous right hand, which he can throw straight or, as he prefers, as an uppercut or a short hook holding a collar tie with his left. A capable kicker, Tafa is also dangerous inside the clinch when allowed to, framing to find elbows, teeing off with punches from collar ties, or using his frame to find dangerous knees in transition. Tafa can get wild with his movements, but he does a good job of pulling back of danger and also ducking, holding, and pivoting to avoid strikes at range. Grappling has been an issue for him, particularly when opponents can chain attempts against the fence. And in his last fight, we also saw a vulnerability to leg kicks thanks to his very heavy front foot heavy stance. Though that was on like a day's notice, so we shouldn't take much from it, I guess. Tafa is experienced in striking sports, having a number of pro boxing and pro kickboxing fights to his name, but in MMA not much has been seen from him. On the other hand, we have Walter Walker, a big heavyweight, the brother of Johnny Walker. Oh yeah, this was like brother in brother action, right? This is like brother fighter the movie, right? The brother of Johnny Walker is a very different fighter. His style revolves around the overhand and the level change. At range, Walker is patient, filling the gaps with jabs, low kicks, knees, and a front kick to the body. He wants to find spots to set up his big right hand or to draw the opponent in to look for his double leg. His defense relies a lot on the high guard, but that can be to his advantage as it allows him to not concede much ground, and when he feels he has the timing, he will open up with check hooks and counter right hands. He can fall apart against combinations, but his level change is his saving grace. The owner of a very decent double leg takedown, Walker finishes authoritatively and is quick to establish half guard, be it on open space or against the fence. From top position, he has shown to be conservative, chipping away with shots and using smothering pressure until he gets to advanced position or feels his opponent tiring to open up with heavier ground and pound. There's not much else on tape about Walker. His cardio seems average and he's a good athlete. Tafa holds a big advantage on the feet here, but Walker is probably going to be able to take him down a few times. The question is if Walker is able to close the deal or if Tafa is able to survive or to get back to his feet to get his striking going. I feel like Tafa was able to stay safe and defend a good amount of takedowns from a better wrestler, even if a smaller one, in Mohamed Usman, and the high guard and reaching that Walker does fares very poorly against the uppercuts and hooks that the Aussie throws from the inside. This is very winnable by Walker via top position, but I'm picking Junior Tafa by knockout on the second round. Okay, let's get back. Fuck my life, heavyweight says goes. The trend with brothers in MMA is that one of them is good and the other kind of sucks. Yeah, pretty much is. Other than like, what are like two brothers that are good other than like the Diaz brothers, where are like pretty similar in quality, I would say. And Minotauro and Minotauro are actually like both very good too. And that was like both of those were like long time ago, right? Have we seen like good brothers after that? James Kendrick says the bad Tafa versus Heavyweight Walker. What is the UFC doing right now? The UFC is trying to get Tafa a win in home turf. That's what I'm guessing. I think every heavyweight is vulnerable to leg kicks. Yeah, probably, right? Like those guys pretty much just learn how to be very heavy on their front foot. Like Cyril Gane is just like one of the hardest like heavyweights to leg kick just because he's not like plant on the ground the whole time. I know in the UFC this would be an Apex headliner. They're getting there. They're getting there, right? Walter Walker. Instead of 4 brothers, it's 2 brothers. Pettis brothers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to say that Anthony sucks, right? Because obviously Sergio is the good Pettis brother, but obviously Anthony very good too. Those are like very good brothers too, right? Very good. Some of the best, I would say. The Pitbulls are not the case, right? Like Like, no disrespect, like, Bad Pitbull, Patricky is very good. I mean, not like very good. He's a decent fighter. He's a solid fighter. But Patricio is so good, right? Like, the difference between the two is so big. And we all call him Bad Pitbull, and no one gets annoyed by that. It's like the most normal shit ever. It's like, oh yeah, Bad Pitbull, it's Patricky. Everyone knows that who we're talking about. So we have 4 brothers in this card, right? We have some of these, like the difference between quality, like the difference between Gilbert Burns and Herbert Burns is insane, right? And Alex Reyes, Dominic Reyes, that's kind of crazy too, especially because Dominic is so athletic, right? Junior Tafa, I feel like is closer to Justin Tafa, and Walter Walker, like, yeah, he's worse than he's worse than Johnny Walker, man. Why are you worse than Johnny Walker? Anyway, let's get back to the fights. Did we have a welterweight already? Yeah, we did. We're back at welterweight. We have a fight between the Li Jing Liang against Carlos Prates. Let's begin with the Leash. Li Jing Liang, a Sanda kickboxer, the UFC veteran, is an active striker, and while his focus has been in his boxing later into his career, especially his right hand, he maintains a steady volume of kicks to complement his hands. Against southpaws, Lee likes to just flash his lead hand, gathering reactions, instead of committing to jamming or fighting hands most of the time. Instead, he kicks the legs and the body to keep busy, looking for a spot to counter with his right hand. He keeps active head movement on the outside, and while he can fight himself on the center line during prolonged exchanges, he's being hard to hit in open space, unless it is via a mix of feints and straight shots. Lee is also good at catching kicks and countering off those catches, be it with leg kicks or punches upstairs. Lee can get aggressive and put combos together, looking to set up his overhand off the left hand or of the level change, but he prefers to have a kickboxing fight in neutral space. Earlier in his career, he was more of a dedicated wrestler and grappler, turning into more of a pure striker as of late. He does have scrambling ability and hard ground and pound when he's on top position. His cardio and chin have been better than average, but he can fail to put stamps on close fights because of his steady pace, relying on big moments, and has lost to dedicated wrestlers and clinchers. Against him, we have Prates, a long southpaw kickboxer. Prates fights out of a light leg stance, looking to establish a long range at open space. He puts his long leaves to use for this, as he's content to move around on the outside, actively feinting with his shoulders and hips, looking for spot for roundhouse kicks to all 3 levels from his rear leg and piercing front kick to the body. Prates can either jab or fight hands with his lead hand, and when he has a feel for it, he will check hook incoming foes and pivot out, denying exchanges. Counter knees are also part of the menu, and he can be devastating with them. He has a sharp and fast stride left, but he can get messy with his feet after throwing it. And overall, the pocket is where he looks the most vulnerable. Other than distance, Prates is good at parrying strikes and also high behind his shoulders, but his defense isn't made for prolonged exchanges. To deal with this, Prates is a solid clincher, using wrist control and collar tie to smother opponents and using his long frame to land big elbows and his trademark knees. Early in his career, he struggled with wrestlers, but his takedown defense has looked solid in the UFC so far, often choosing to blade his stance to fit the single leg and using his long frame to get his foot back to the floor. Grappling is a bit of an unknown nowadays, and so is his conditioning and toughness at this level. While Lee might try to put on the wrestling singlet for this one, I expect this one to play on the feet. Prates, as the longer fighter and the southpaw, will probably be more comfortable fighter in this one, but Lee has a few tools that could prove valuable. His ability to catch kicks might put Prates off, especially if he can convert into takedowns, and I can also see the Leash catching Prates with his loopy right hand if he stands combinations, or catches the Brazilian with his chin high up after the left hand or the left knee. as he has looked sketchy in those situations in the last few fights. That being said, I gotta ride not only with the momentum of the Brazilian and fighting nerves, but also his damaging tools and ability to control exchanges with with the clinch and his footwork to keep himself safe from fumble exchanges against the superior boxer. Prates finishes the Chinese on the second round via strikes. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay. Um, he's worse than Johnny. I mean, he's a lot worse than Johnny Walker, to be honest. If they fight, Walter Walker might beat Johnny Walker just because he has a double leg. Being worse than Johnny Walker takes so much effort that you almost have to be good at MMA for it. Bigger gap in talent, Antonia and Valentina Shevchenko or Gilbert and Herbert Burns? That one's rough. I gotta say Herbert, right? Because I feel like Antonina Shevchenko is pretty decent, like technically. It's just that she's not the uber athlete that Valentina is, right? Valentina is such a monster athlete, especially in her prime. She's like falling off right now, but she was like so powerful, so strong. And Antonina is none of those. I think they are not like actually. They are not like blood sisters. I think both of them are adopted, so that's why. That might explain the big difference in athleticism between Antonina and Valentina. Ben Con says, I stand Walter Walker so much. The thing that I don't understand about Walter Walker, and this has nothing to do with fighting, is that when he was fighting in Russia, they called him Antonio for some reason. That's so fucking weird, man. Why they call him Antonio? Sorry, I'm eating some. This is a very bad idea, actually. Like eating crackers, when I am already out of water. Homage to Antonio Inoki? No way. No way that it's like in honor of Antonio Inoki. If that's true, that rules, man. A fan ghost. Yeah, this is such a bad idea. Why I'm eating crackers, man? Leash, he goes to Black Tiger MMA of the season to trade BJJ. Oh, the Leash is a kill cliff? I didn't know, man. That's interesting. I'm going to regret this so much. I'm going to regret this so much. Have you seen the Leash grappling at Black Tiger Ghost? I feel like he hasn't been grappling at all in MMA since, I mean, with the exception of Shimaev, right? But Shimaev is Shimaev. I like Walker to drop a few pounds. Yeah, I feel like he's very explosive, right? He doesn't need to be like 260 to get the takedowns. He has like a pretty good level change of what the Walker does. Like surprisingly good double leg takedown. Like it's not fantastic, but for heavyweight MMA, that's pretty good, especially for a guy as big as he is. The future MMA is every gym. They need to start cloning Henry Hooft, right? We need a lot of Henry Hoofs to make MMA better. Micha Walensky, what makes you say? I heard that once, man. I think it was like, let me. No, apparently I was like completely lying. Here in Sherdog, they're talking, and a guy is saying like, I heard both are four blood sisters. Uh, yeah, apparently at least at the very least they share their mother, so they are not adopted. I was just lying. Maybe they are like half sisters, but actually it seems like I was like completely wrong there. So just lying my ass off, being a complete fraud. Whitman's son or Cliff Door. Oh man, fucking Whitman, man. Hey Ben, thank you so much for dropping by. I appreciate it a lot. Um, yeah, I'm going with the they are half sisters right now. That's my new lie. Everything here is a lie. This is the new one. When I get caught, I don't admit that I was wrong. I just say a new lie in top of the other one. You just gotta keep lying. That's how you make it, right? Okay, I gotta hurry up because like I'm eating crackers and I will have such a dry mouth. Oh, we have it is time for the big fight, guys. Rio, I'll answer your question right after this because we gotta talk about something very important. We go back to heavyweight. We have about between Tuivasa and Jair Senior Rozenstruik. Let's begin with Tuivasa. Stocky and deceivingly athletic and quick striker, Tai mostly looks to establish range and inflict damage with big and quick leg kicks, and looks to set up big hook and overhand entries of feints. He can close distance quickly and is very dangerous inside the pocket with big power and good eyes. Tai is strong inside the clinch, especially if he gets an underhook on one side so he can frame, elbow, or look for shots over the top from the other side. Defensive wrestling has been alright but physicality dependent, and his grappling has shown to be lacking big time so far. Despite his ability to close distance, he can be stuck on long range against fighters with actual range weapons, and his lack of an actual consistent jab hurts him when he fails to establish his leg kicks. On the other hand, we have Rozenstruik, a low output kickboxer. Jairzinho likes to control the pace of the fight with his jab and inside leg kicks in open space, feigning and waiting for opportunities to counter. A power threat with both hands, while he mostly counters with a wide check hook. His right hand that usually comes right after in a wide arc has also put numerous fighters away. His decent footwork and distance management allow him to usually maintain the loud output he likes, and if the opponent is not giving him any openings, he's content to win the fight with a jab and a low kick diet that allow him to outscore opponents. Once he hurt an opponent or he takes a chance, Rozenstruik gets wild, but he's very dangerous, swinging with both hands and mixing in knees and a sneaky high kick. He's at his most counterable during these situations, but he presents fight-ending danger in every strike. Inside the clinch, he's similarly inactive, but he can find good knees and elbows. His takedown defense and his ability to fight off his back have been solid enough to keep him safe against everyone except the very best grapplers of the division. His chin is outstanding and his cardio hasn't been much of an issue, especially factoring his low output style. While Tuivasa will be aggressive enough to not allow Rozenstruik to have his usual low output fight, I'm not sure that's a fight that he always wins. If this fight gets chaotic inside there or like gets to the clinch a lot, Tuivasa always has shots to get it done. But Rozenstruik also has those same chances in those scenarios, and also being a very tough and powerful fighter, Rozenstruik will also have the advantage in a slow fight to boot. Jairzinho is also one of the few guys in the division that are okay with dealing with leg kicks, and that will probably neuter a lot of tight games at open space. Between heavyweight hitters, anything can happen, always, but I think Rozenstruik is the more reliable pick and picking Jairzinho by knockout on the first round. Let's get back to the What is the problem with Whitman? I think that the thing with Whitman is that he he forces fighters to fight in a. I think that that's had to be the big problem with the big profile fighters of Whitman, is that he has turned everyone that fights under him into a like a neutral space boxer, where the fighters are not maximizing their tools, right? Um, if you go like Usman and Justin Gagey, both are better off being pressure fighters in very different ways, of course. But I feel like hanging on the outside is not like a very good idea for either of them. Even though it worked out for Usman, and then Usman started losing when he started pressuring, right? But yeah, I mean, I feel that's the thing. For Rose, I feel like Rose could also like afford to be more aggressive. Rose can do like very good defensive movements. She can move her head, she can pivot and look very good, but that's very taxing mentally for her, I feel. And she starts falling apart after a while, especially under pressure. And Whitman should have given her tools to deal with that instead of like jabbing and trying to reset and staying safe. Like you can tell that she kind of panics under those kind of situations. And Rose is like the one that works the best with him, and I still feel he's not equipping her to a style that is very like a style that match super well with her personality as a fighter, right? And then you have Justin Gagey, we have Usman, and now you have Corey Sanhagen, and everyone has this like style that it requires you to be like the slicker technician, and that's not always going to be the case, right? Sometimes you need a style that allows you some flexibility to make the big picture adjustments that allow you to take over fights. And then, for example, Gagey tried to go back to a pressuring style against Holloway, and he did not look like himself anymore. Like he has been doing this like boxer puncher style for so long, and he got pretty good at it, but it wasn't what he needed against a fighter like Holloway. I'll say for Usman, like Usman was successful like jabbing on the outside against like Gilbert Burns, right? But I see almost got killed in that fight. But then you see Usman like having like trouble with Colby Covington, getting into messy exchanges and stuff like that, and he's not equipped to. He's not equipped to do that. He's not equipped to. He should have had other options, right? He should have the option to like walk Colby down and make him uncomfortable instead of like going into these like 50-50 exchanges. Seems like Shrimp, I mean, is like deleting a lot of uh, comments here. Trevor Whitless. Jesus Christ, man. Can Tai Tuivasa is champion? Yes, for sure. Tai Tuivasa can be is champion for sure. Tai Tuivasa title run starts after the Jairzinho. Yeah, I mean Tai, it's very tough, but he's like, I don't know, man. It's been rough for the poor guy. Yeah, I feel like this like point fighty style of Whitman doesn't translate for these kind of fighters. It doesn't make sense. I feel like he might be a better fit for Corey Sanhagen overall, but it showed that in his last fight it was not a good match, right? And then he didn't have tools because everyone is so like concerned with having a clean fight. It's very similar to when everyone in TriStar was trying to be GSP, right? Now TriStar has moved on from that a little bit. They are a little bit more boxy, a little bit more dirty. But there was a time where everyone wanted to like control the whole fight with the jab and using like this like the high elbow guard and that kind of shit. And like Not everyone can fight like that, man. Let's move on to the next one. We have very few left, and the three left are pretty good actually. We're back at lightweight for a very important fight between Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker. Let's begin with Gamrot, a mobile switch stance chain wrestler that mostly favors a low single of a very quick level change. Gamrot operates on the feet on open space looking for straight shots from both stances to combo into hooks or kicks. He can shoot reactively if pressured, but also looks to just time the takedown out in open space. Despite the speed of the level change, the entries can be a bit messy, shooting from way outside or dropping to his knees. He still completes a lot of takedowns thanks to good ankle control that allows him to lift, climb up the leg, or transition to the other leg. Once on the ground, he's not great at controlling, but he's very tenacious with pursuing mat returns and can find good position during transitions, usually finding back body locks or deep singles when fighters are working their way back to their feet. He has a variety of submissions that he usually finds during transitions, including back chokes, leg locks, and arm attacks. He likes to reset often both in wrestling and striking, and he's a bit shaky on the feet, sometimes not seeing counters or getting countered kicking naked. His defense on the feet can be lacking, but his ability to level change when things get rough offer him a huge safety blanket. Shin and cardio are great assets. His lack of damage during scrambles and shallow process on the feet are his biggest flaws. Hooker, a long city kickboxing product, Hooker likes to establish a long range behind his floating lead hand and heavy kicks to all levels. Dan Hooker is good at building combinations, putting his hand together and manipulating his targets, and he's an avid body puncher. His knees are outstanding and he can land them on the counter or leading, using his punches to lead the head of his opponents in the desired position. Inside the pocket, he's a deceptively dangerous puncher, throwing hard hooks with both hands, and while his head doesn't move much other than for pulling back, he does a well enough job of framing and keeping his high guard to minimize damage. His takedown defense has been solid, if a bit untested at the highest level, but he does a good job of attacking grips and taking angles early to avoid getting into prolonged wrestling exchanges. A good grappler, other than losing to Islam, Hooker always been solid, especially from top position, being the owner of brutal ground and pound and a good front headlock series. His speed has taken a hit as of late, but his durability looks to be just fine after moving back to lightweight. Cardio always has been a strong suit. Hooker has a lot of tools that could prove very troublesome for Gamrot. His size, the distance he imposes, his knees, and his damaging approach. He might be able to replicate a lot of what Jalen Turner did in a fight that, if we're honest, Jalen Turner should have won against the Pole. What worries me for the Kiwi here is that the step of speed that he has lost might be what allows Gamrot to make things sketchy, as Hooker will probably find himself in a fast-paced scrambles in the mat that he hasn't seen in a while. Gamrot is also mobile and quick on the feet, and with the threat of the takedown, he has a very good chance to make things murky. And when things get murky, you know that Gamrot usually gets his hands raised. Gamrot can compete at range with his straight shots and kicking, enough to steal the rounds with the wrestling when he gets going. Any awkward position or bad read could mean that Hooker hammers him on the ground or that he hits a fine-ending knee. But I think that even if it's fairly scored or not, I think that Gamrot is going to get the nod from the judges. My pick is Gamrot by decision. Let's get into Gamrot fights like the dust bubbling. Jesus Christ, man. If I trust this Hooker here physically, I would actually not hate him for this fight. Yeah, actually, I feel like Hooker could actually win like a better version of the Jalen Turner fight if he was like in good shape. But I feel like he's like a tad bit slower that will allow Hooker to just be a douchebag to him during the fight. A guy who changes level predictably and only does ephemeral 1-2 exchanges versus knee guy who can do good entry counters is most. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I feel like. I feel like Gamrot would, if Hooker shows up like in prime form, I feel like Gamrot gets takedowns and he gets hit during his takedowns. Again, Hooker gets back up and gets more damage in every round. I feel like Hooker can do a lot of like the what Benil did, but without taking as much chances, just because he's longer and it's like a bigger hitter, more balanced hitter, right? So he doesn't need to be as good of a wrestler as Benil Dariush was, and his style is also like better, more conductive to defending takedowns than Jalen Turner is. Will Hooker's front kick be a big factor in this matchup, or the intercepting knee? The knee, I think, has a big chance to be huge, right? Okay, give me a second, guys, please. Okay. Uh, does Gamrot catch kicks often? That's how Hooker. Yeah, but Islam is like Isam, I think, didn't even like catch the kick. He shoot under a kick, similarly to what like Habib did against Justin Gaethje. And Gamrot like can for sure do that. But the thing is that the finishes from Gamrot are not like very conductive to like super hard control. I think like yeah, the front kicks and the knees from Hooker are going to be like big weapons here. Do you think Gamrot can go to a close decision with Islam, but also a broomstick? Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Gamrot is going to have like a close fight with anyone. Excuse me for a second here, please. I need to get a taxi for my girlfriend. Pa, 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 pa. Yeah, I mean with a taxi, I mean an Uber. Okay, 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 okay. We have very few fights left, and we need to get going. Can you please? I feel like Gamrot is very interesting for Islam, man. Which is weird, right? Because I feel like Islam is so fucking good. Okay, we have the co-main, and then we have the main event. We move down to flyweight for our co-main event, and we have a great fight between Kai Kara France and Steve Erceg. Let's begin with Kara France, a stocky city kickboxing striker. Kai likes to stalk his opponents with a very front foot heavy stance, fading with both hands and with steps from his left leg. Kai usually throws most strikes with a lot of power, and the arc of his strikes can tend to be wide, but his shot selection is solid and he keeps himself balanced, ready to follow up or defend if necessary. His footwork His footwork is solid and he can move well on the outside or pressuring. He tends to resort to shifting a lot to cover distance because of his preference for hooks and his stocky build, and while he usually does them with good setups and technique, he can be vulnerable crossing his feet. Despite this, Cara-France is at his best when he gets active with his lead hand and uses throwaway strikes to set up his big bumps, something that usually takes him a while in fights to do. A well-rounded fighter. Okay, for fuck's sake, man. I have to re-record this part because I'm getting like... Oh god. So mad right now. I'm sorry guys, it's just an emergency that I have going on here. Okay. Let's get this done. We move down to flyweight for our co-main event, and we have a great fight between Kai Kara-France and Steve Erceg. Let's begin with Kara-France. A stocky city kickboxing striker, Kai likes to stalk his opponents with a very front foot heavy stance, feinting with both hands and with steps from his lead leg. Kai usually throws most strikes with a lot of power, and the arc of his strikes can tend to be wide, but his shot selection is solid and he gives himself balance ready to follow up or defend if necessary. His footwork is solid and he can move well on the outside or pressuring. He tends to resort to shifting a lot to cover distance because of his preference for hooks and his stocky build, and while he usually does them with good setups and technique, he can be vulnerable crossing his feet. Despite this, Kara-France is at his best when he gets active with his lead hand and uses throwaway strikes to set up big bumps, something that usually takes him a while in fights to do. A well-rounded fighter, Kai has shown to be a tremendous defensive wrestler, fighting grips against the cage and using his short frame and low center of gravity to deny attempts from some of the premier wrestlers in the division. He has shown good scrambling abilities when forced to do as well, and his ground and pound is dangerous, even if his top control can be lacking. The meat and potato style of Kara-France that has allowed him so much success has also been a flaw for him, as his minimalistic toolset can be problematic when he needs to turn fights around, but his cardio and durability give him plenty of chances to find a spot for his power. Erceg, a lanky and upright striker on the feet, Erceg has quick hands, puts tight combinations together, and has natural pop. Length and flexibility allow him to sneak high kicks with good power at the end of his combinations. He has somewhat suspect defense on the retreat, while he usually circles well after 2 or 3 steps. He can keep his chin up in the air for the taking, relying on frames and length to keep safe. He does move his head decently well when he's looking to counter though, and he has great eyes inside the pocket. As modern clincher, he's constantly looking for body locks to get takedowns and land good knees from over-unders while pummeling. Erceg is not great at shooting on the legs, but he can use shoots to create clinches and force grappling exchanges. A very dynamic and dangerous scrambler, Erceg can find front chokes or the back from a number of positions, and is very good at finishing submissions from both. And is also a good mat wrestler, getting reversals and using the single leg from bottom position. Not invulnerable to being reversed himself though, his relaxed style allows him to maintain pace very well into fights, and the chin is also a strong point. A very intriguing fight at 125, Erceg comes from his stellar performance, barely falling short of winning the title, while France also comes from a very close fight against fellow prospect Amir Albasi. Erceg is the more refined and resourceful fighter of the two. He has more versatility to his shot selection and is more comfortable at various ranges. Kai Kara-France, on the other hand, has some strengths that match directly into Erceg's flaws. His ability to truck people and land power while avoiding counters is the most valuable of them. Erceg has been hit and hurt during exits, and the wide arching punches of Kai Kara-France are exactly made to punish that habit. Erceg also usually likes to mix things up, and I wouldn't be shocked to see that France is able to stop him in a kickboxing fight. This is a very close fight, and very few on paper are for Erceg at this point in my opinion. I still gotta side with Astro Boy, as he will have the adaptability and size on his side. He might have to survive a scare or two, but I think that Erceg wins a decision. What's your opinion of Kara-France body jab? Yeah, I feel like the body jab is a great option for Kai Kara-France because he's so stocky. He has like he has like a very easy access to the body of fighters, especially in this fight against Erceg, right? He doesn't need much of a level change, and he can stay very safe, and that can be a very good setup for his big overhand right, or doubling up from the safe side with his wide left hook. So those are very good options for him. Uh, Erceg, good intercepting elbow. Yeah, that was not something that I saw a lot before the Pantoja fight, but that was like a brilliant move, and he tried that quite a lot. So that could be a very good job. That would be a very good tool against Kai Kara France, especially because, as I said, Kai Kara France likes to switch stances so much. And while he's closing the distance, he might get caught with an elbow or a knee, because Astro Boy does have those knees too. Shriram says, I think Erceg Costa shows Erceg might struggle to take over, but Kai Kara France seems like he's usually only a few smart adjustments from Brink pushing out of a fight. Yeah, that's why I'm picking Erceg. I feel like out of the gate, I feel like Kai Kara France a bit of like a bad matchup for Astro Boy. But I feel as the fight moves on, if no one gets knocked out, I feel like it's only Erceg, the one that it's going like to take over, like not super like with damage maybe, because like Kai Kara France stays like sharp and it's hard to hurt, but just like landing more damaging volume overall. So I feel like this is like the Erceg's fight, right? Okay, we'll make a little bit of we'll wait a little bit before the main event talk. So before talking about Duplessis and Adesanya, which is our main event, I'm going to just freestyle that one. I did some tape study, but it's like watching Duplessis is like rough, right? Not that he not just because he's bad, but it's like so hard to what to make out of him. Especially now that I saw that clip of him saying like he doesn't even think about the stuff he does. Apparently Duplessis saw like a video analysis of of someone saying that, oh, he took the inside foot position, outside foot position. And Duplessis was like, what? Like he had no idea about that kind of shit. Okay. Um okay, I'll be back in like 5 minutes. So I'll be back in like 5 minutes, and we'll talk about Adesanya Duplessis, and we'll get out of here. Okay? Thank you so much, guys. Just wait for a little bit. Okay, we're back. We're fucking back, okay? Um, let's get into it. And with that, we get to the main event. We have a fight for the middleweight title. We have Dricus du Plessis against the stylebender Israel Adesanya. So this is a weird fight, right? We never expected du Plessis to get to. I mean, uh, I mean, like our circle of analysts, no one expected du Plessis to get this far. Like, obviously, he has some very good qualities to him. He's very athletic. He's big for the division. He's somewhat well rounded. He's like a capable grappler. He has some strange qualities to his striking that allow him to flourish. But we expected someone to put a stop to this madness before this, right? But actually, no. Like he has fought very good fighters and he keeps winning. He fought Robert Whittaker and he finished it. He fought the champion Sean Strickland in a very close fight. I thought I personally scored that fight for Strickland, but it was like crazy close. And plus he was taking the optics in that one, so he's the champion now. And we have former champion Adesanya, who lost his title against aforementioned Sean Strickland in a very one-sided fight that basically no one saw coming. But before that, he was losing the fight against Alex Pereira before brutally knocking him out. So who knows? This matchup, what's going on in this matchup? I feel like Adesanya has a lot of the tools to punish all of the bad habits of du Plessis in a more emphatic way than like Sean Strickland, for example, right? Adesanya has like a cleaner movement on the outside if du Plessis decides to push forward. Adesanya has like a more damaging jab. He has like very heavy low kicks, and du Plessis, despite showing the ability to check kicks a few times, despite that, I feel like du Plessis is kickable, right? He has a very weird stance. He has been vulnerable to being kicked to the body as well. So Adesanya has advantages in all of those areas, right? On the other side, du Plessis is aggressive. He's physically imposing. He can get takedowns, and like Adesanya hasn't defended takedowns from a lot of people. Like Vettori came with a very like takedown heavy approach to fight Adesanya, and the takedowns weren't very good, and Adesanya used his defense against defense. I feel like du Plessis, he's more willing to take chances and to mix it up, and I feel like those are like might be scary. Like he might be able to get those like Jan Blachowicz style takedowns where he gets into the fire to shoot, something that Vettori was actually not doing. The few times that Vettori actually did that, he got takedowns. Like du Plessis will be able to shoot from closer because he's just willing to exchange, right? And du Plessis has tremendous toughness, great chin. He will get into those very sketchy exchanges. So what should the approach for both fighters be? Adesanya, I feel like Adesanya needs to avoid to circle on the outside as committedly as he did against Sean Strickland. He can move around, but I feel like he needs to have some semblance about maintaining the center of the cage, using his jab, using his feints, using the low kicks. Keep it very simple. And when du Plessis tries to close the distance, that's the time when you try to time him with the big counters like you did against Robert Whittaker. We've seen du Plessis getting tagged with intercepting shots, from example by Darren Till. Darren Till actually gave some advice to Adesanya, and people are memeing on him. But actually, he's kind of right on most of the stuff that Darren Till said. he didn't say anything too groundbreaking, but he said like, oh, he buys a lot of feints. You need to establish a long distance. You need to move him back with the feints, and when he tries to close the distance, you just put something out the middle. And I think that's the right thing, right? I think that's very good advice, even if it's nothing like super deep. I feel like Darren Steele, who shared the cage with Duplessis, is right about that. On the other hand, like, what's Duplessis supposed to do here? He just it's it's always said against the more technical, the longer fighter, you need to make it ugly. But I feel like it is true to an extent here. Duplessis cannot make it too sloppy because like Adesanya is actually dangerous. So I feel like Duplessis cannot actually like replicate Strickland's game plan completely, but if he puts some emphasis on defending leg kicks and jabbing with Adesanya, he can put Adesanya on the back foot, and when Adesanya is like against the fence, he can afford to do like those like ugly blitzes, that kind of stuff, mixing up some takedowns. Is if Adesanya decides to move forward, that's the kind of stuff that Duplessis needs to do. It is hard to predict how it's going to do it, just because I feel like Duplessis fights are so volatile, and Adesanya has been like very hit and miss. I feel like the loss to Strickland, I attribute like most of that, like 70 to 90% of that, to Strickland having a very good performance and a very good game plan, and like drilling the right stuff, right? I feel like Dricus, this is like, to draw a parallel here. This is like Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz, and then Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Cody Garbrandt had like a very like finesse game plan. That's like what Strickland did to Adesanya, right? He had studied the patterns of the footwork, and Adesanya, Strickland did not do that, but he did like, he studied a lot like the timing of the kicks of Adesanya. He worked on his check kicks, so he came very well prepared for this opponent in particular, right? And then Duplessis needs to do something like Cejudo did against Dominic Cruz in this analogy, where he needs to bring his usual stuff, do some like very big adjustments, big picture adjustments here, right? And just keep at it. So Duplessis needs to be very careful about defending the leg kicks on the outside. He needs to be jabbing with Adesanya the whole time. He cannot concede jabbing range. He needs to walk forward and pressure, but without getting careless. Just employ the right amount of aggression when Adesanya is making himself vulnerable, when he's circling, when he's trapped against the fence. And then, only if Adesanya like tries to have like extended exchanges, tries to move forward, then you try to mix in the takedowns and use your strength, use your power, use your top control. So I don't expect Duplessis to put on a performance like Strickland that was like very calculated, very specific tactics bring to the table. So it's like, back to the analogy. Strickland was like the Cody Garbrandt, that he came with like the perfect game plan that he prepared for a long time for this specific opponent. Duplessis needs to do like the Cejudo, like maximize your attributes, maximize your meat and potatoes stuff to win this fight. And can he do it? I think he can, actually. I think Duplessis has a very good shot, especially if Adesanya is not in the right place mentally to win this fight. And even if Adesanya shows up, I do not think this is unwinnable for Duplessis. As much as it hurts me, Duplessis has shown to be, despite all odds, a good fighter. Despite all the janky mechanics, Duplessis makes the right decisions. He makes the right adjustments, even if like mechanically he looks bad. He's doing the right stuff a lot of the time. As we saw against Whittaker, jabbing from southpaw, like just staying responsible with the high guard, not allowing the fight to get out of hand, even when Whittaker was controlling the initiative of the fight. I feel like there's something in the camp of Duplessis. There's someone that knows what's going on, and Duplessis is like coachable, and also he's not smart in the sense of like knowing what's happening in every exchange, but he's smart in the sense that he can think inside the cage. Duplessis, right? As stupid as he seems, he's a guy that he can think about what's working, what's not working, and when it's time to change gears to try something new. We saw that in the fight against Strickland, where he looked like very out of resources at times, and then he made it close. Even though I didn't think he won that fight, I thought he showed like great resolve. He showed a cold mind. Um, I feel like it's not only coachable in the sense that he will do what you say, but I think in the fighter, Duplessis makes the right decisions more often than not. And obviously he has like these huge physical attributes that give him the margin of error, because if you fight like Duplessis, even if you're super smart, if you fight like Duplessis and you're not athletic, you're not getting anywhere, right? He gets to do this stuff because he's super strong, because he hits very hard, because he has good timing, decent speed, all of that. And he's very tough. He's well conditioned, right? Uh, but I still cannot pick him, right? I can acknowledge everything that Duplessis does right. I can acknowledge what Duplessis can do to win this fight, and if he wins, I would not be that surprised. But if I'm forced to pick, I gotta pick Adesanya. I think Adesanya's very bad matchup for Duplessis, worse than Strickland, right? Because Strickland has this problem that if he gets into ugly fights, he cannot put a stamp on it. I think Adesanya being way more dynamic, more damaging, um, very school to land like damaging strikes, right? The thing that the thing with Strickland is that he doesn't have like an actual right hand that he can throw in a under tension, under pressure. And Adesanya is a big puncher, right? Adesanya is a big puncher. He can throw stuff in the clinch. He has leg kicks to cripple you. So Adesanya is way more damaging than Sean Strickland. Adesanya can lose focus of the fight just like Strickland. Duplessis can win this for sure. But I feel like if Adesanya is like committed to win here, he's looking for a big win. He fights smart. He doesn't fight emotional here. He doesn't lose his focus, as we have seen. He puts on even on a performance where he's not fighting like the perfect fight like he did on against Pereira the second time around, right? I feel like this is Adesanya's fight to lose, and I think he's going to win this. I feel like Duplessis is very tough. He probably take 1 or 2 rounds, even if Adesanya shows up well, because he has attributes to be annoying to Adesanya, to get that top position, to get the ground and pound going. But I gotta trust Adesanya's ability to jab and move, to low kick and move, and then to find right hands, to land with heat, to land with the authority that Strickland didn't have, that Brad Tavares, another fighter that was giving big trouble to Duplessis but couldn't put on a stamp on the fight. I feel like Adesanya is the guy that can actually put a stamp on this fight. So if I have to choose, I gotta go with Adesanya. So my final pick is Israel Adesanya regains his title in a unanimous decision. And that's the pay-per-view, guys. I think this is a pretty solid pay-per-view. This is not fantastic, but they're giving. I feel like they're doing the Australian people well with this one. They're giving him their big stars. They have their Adesanya, Kai Kara France versus Steve Erceg, a tremendous co-main event between like the Kiwi versus the Australian. That's great. We have Dan Hooker, who is obviously from New Zealand, but will be like the hometown guy against Gamrot. And a very important high-level lightweight fight, right? Then you have Tuivasa that he's a fan favorite against Rozenstruik. And Rozenstruik usually in boring fights, but I think Tuivasa is not going to allow him. Then you have Gigi Yang versus Carlos Prates. Could be like Prates getting a very big moment, a star-making performance, maybe, or maybe like Li Jingliang gets right back on track. And he's kind of a favorite too, and he's out of China, so he's close to home for this one. You have your heavyweight filler in Junior Tafa versus Battle Walker, but you have the Australian in Junior Tafa, Culibao, another Australian fighter against Ricardo Ramos. Then you have Casey O'Neill versus Luana Santos, high stake fight at flyweight division. Jack Jenkins is a huge guy in Australia. Tom Nolan, rising prospect over there. Song Kenan, another Chinese guy that is training close to Australia. And the opener, you have a prospect, Stuart Nicoll, a newcomer making his debut. So fights that I'm looking forward to here. The opener actually is intriguing. I'm excited about Nicoll making his debut. He seems like a cool prospect. Song Kenan versus Ricky Glenn is very intriguing. Jack Jenkins is always exciting. Josh Culibao versus Ricardo Ramos is like the gem of the prelims, right? It's going to be like the exciting fight over there. Li Jingliang versus Carlos Prates is going to be action. Gamrot versus Hooker is huge. Kai Kara-France versus Steve Erceg, all the potential to be the best fight of the night. And then the main event is very compelling, so I cannot complain too bad about this one. So thank you so much, guys, for listening. Remember, if you want to support the fight site as an ongoing project, you can head over to Patreon. For only a small amount of money, you can get access to our Discord server and a lot of exclusive content. We have a lot of like video content that we cannot put on YouTube and stuff like that. Exclusive podcasts as well. And that's the podcast. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm Feño signing out. And that's it for the recorded part of the podcast. I'll stay here to read the comments and I'll get out of here. Okay, so there's a lot to catch up here. Do you think Dunkus Plunkus has the scouting to make the adjustment to use the throwaway jab? I think the scouting from Duplessis has been very solid. As I said, they make only like super like very big picture stuff. Not sure a throwaway jab is something that I see Duplessis doing, but I feel like him jabbing behind like a very responsible high guard could be something to watch out for here, and something that could maybe like bother Adesanya. And I would not be surprised if Duplessis shows up with like decent pressuring footwork here, something that we haven't seen of him, but could be very valuable here. The Last Stand 001 asked me, how do you think Erceg versus Mokai would have went? That's interesting. Very interesting. Erceg is a very good grappler, but I feel like he might have get robbed by... Nah, I gotta pick Erceg, but there's a little chance that Mokai wins like a bad decision that he doesn't deserve, based on like the takedowns that Pantoja got on Erceg. Rico's Blitz versus Adesanya Ringcraft. I think Adesanya should have a footwork advantage, but I feel like maybe the Ringcraft is going to be the side of Duplessis. So I feel like it's very important for Adesanya to try to maintain some real state behind him, not circle on the very outside of the cage in this one. Rio Sosen asks, is it hard to establish distance when someone shoots up space slowly? I feel like a guy who controls the distance too fast plays into Adesanya's game. Yeah, I feel like the one adjustment that I expect from Duplessis here is that he's not going to blitz super early. He's going to pick his spots, and if you are like responsible with the blitzes, we saw Jan Blachowicz use blitzes effectively against Adesanya, just like being patient and waiting for the right opportunities. And there's a lot of Blachowicz that Duplessis can try to emulate in this fight. So I expect Duplessis to maybe show up with better pressuring footwork that we've seen in the past. Then Albert says Adesanya is a test of distance in that you can give him too much space because he feints you for sniping. If you rush, he counters you. It's why measuring mix-up works. It's why Jan Strickland worked. Yeah, pretty much. And that's going to hard. It's going to be hard to emulate for Duplessis, but it's not impossible, especially because Duplessis can jab with people and can kick with people. Sure, I'm trying to pick Duplessis fight. Feels like attempting to commune with the dark forces of, yeah, it's Lovecraftian shit, right? It's like, man, you never know with Duplessis. You think Dricus was talking about Ghost Up or Jab Breakdown? Oh man, he might be right, but I think the Duplessis was talking about like inside and outside foot positioning, and so yeah, probably he might have been talking about Ghost. DDP is like Page Sankey, Jardine, and Derek Bronson combined in some strange mixer. He's like a golden retriever. He's like a clueless dog, but can be trying to see, shake, and catch return. Yeah, pretty much. That's all he needs. But the thing is that I think on top of that, like being coachable, I like I said on the breakdown, I feel like Duplessis is good at actually making decisions. Even if they are like very surface level, he makes the right decisions. Yeah, DB is wild in ways to make you need dynamism to stop him, where Strickland's game is more resistant to dynamism. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. With might be that Adesanya is very bad to Duplessis. It's very probable actually. And yeah, that's it with the podcast. Thank you so much again for everyone that is still here. Sorry we had some inconveniences along the way, but I think we had fun. I appreciate the comments so much. Thank you guys, everyone, for being here. Always glad to make the full preview live and talk about some like tangential stuff or technique that is maybe like not fully related to the fights, but it's always cool to talk about fights with you. Probably doing a live stream next week, to be honest, to talk about like stuff in general, just like a chill stream. I think that would be cool, right? Thank you so much, guys. Catch you on the next one. That's it for the podcast.